Marketing strategies require clear, actionable, and achievable metrics to reach your goals. In this episode of Beyond the Logo, we are going to be discussing how to build a customer centric experience centered brand or organization. And some of the points we're going to be touching on are how to build a customer centric vision, how to understand your clients or your target market through personas, how to calculate the return on investment or ROI, and then also we'll do a brief roundup of pandemic-inspired customer experience innovation. So don't go away. We'll be right back with how you can build a customer-centric experience for your brand. If you have just joined us, welcome to Beyond the Logo with Nancy and Bridgetti. I'm your host, Bridgetti Banda from Cape Town in South Africa, and our live stream is made possible by StreamYard, Lockhart Media, as well as BeLive Media. And so a special warm welcome, whether you are joining us over on Amazon Live, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and also over on LinkedIn. Just know that this is an audience-centric show. And so I am monitoring the comments. We're using StreamYard today. And if you're on Amazon Live, I am monitoring the comments in real time. So if you want to just say hello, feel free to do that. And we love giving people a shout out. So we're happy to do that. But we are monitoring the comments. Just know that we are not ignoring our audience. So if you've got a question for us in real time, feel free to let us know, or whether you're watching this later, that's also great. Drop us a note in the comments. We'd be more than happy to answer. So my amazing co-host is Nancy Lockhart. She's the founder of Lockhart Marketing, a #1 best-selling author. Nancy's worked with some of the most iconic brands such as Target, Kaiser Permanente, and Medtronic, and she leverages her knowledge and expertise to help successful women and the men who support them to rebrand their business and themselves. She's also in an amazing book in which I'm also a co-author. The book is called Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore, and it's a testament to the resilience of women all over the world. Nancy is also executive advisor to the University of California, Santa Barbara Customer Experience Program. So she's an expert on this field, and today we're talking about this customer experience and how you can build one, a great one, for your brand. But on the show, we're also all about helping you level up your marketing, and since a huge part of marketing these days is online, we've even got live selling over on Amazon Live. Who thought we'd have this? One of the things that's evolved around the pandemic. I was telling Nancy the other day, I said to her, somebody asked a question which I thought was fantastic. It says, who's driving your marketing strategy? Is it the pandemic? And if it is, maybe we need to look at your strategy there. Anyway, to help you level up on your marketing, there's a couple of things I want to recommend to you, especially if you're over on Amazon Live, but it really doesn't matter because, wherever you are appearing on camera, these are principles that'll work everywhere. So one of the things I use and recommend to level up my live streaming, for example, is I like to use the Logitech Brio camera. And I'm just showing you mine there. Now, I started way back when with this little I love the Logitech webcams. I started with this little one years ago, and it sufficed then. But we want to level up, and so right now the Logitech Brio is one of the top range cameras. It also, the thing I like about the Logitech Brio is that it's got this new um, trademarked right light and HDR technology, which means it'll adjust according to your lighting, which is fantastic, or fantabulous, as I sometimes say. Um, and then the other thing that you could use to level up your live streaming or your video conferencing or your online appearance is sound, because people will tune out. They'll forgive if your camera or your image isn't perfect, but people will tune out. They can't hear you. So sound is kind of like really, really, really important up there. So I use the Logitech. I mean, I use the Samsung, which is a US Studio USB condenser microphone. And incidentally, Samsung was the very first company to introduce the USB condenser microphone. And it's very, very sturdy. It's got a die cast construction, which helps with noise reduction. So this is a really, really good microphone, and I recommend it. But if you don't want something that big, go for something like the Rode lapel microphone, which I also recommend, which is a solution, especially if you've got to walk around. So this is a great solution. That's the Rode microphone. And it comes with a my goodness, I rolled mine up. It comes with a super long extension and the adapter, all of which you can get on Amazon. So those are my recommendations. And then if you want to be, the other thing that I'd like to mention to you, if you are using online marketing, and you need to use your phone, and that's perfectly okay. But don't ever hold your phone in your hand. Do put it in landscape so that you get this kind of view, and you don't get those. If you ever wondered why you get those little black sides if you're on camera, it's because your phone is in portrait mode. So if you want to get rid of those black marks that you get on the sides, just turn your phone into landscape, and voila. But what you do want to do is not hold your phone in your hand, especially if you're busy promoting your company, your brand, because you've got to be aware of the image that you portray online. So for that, I recommend you getting one of these smart devices that you can get, um, and that'll stabilize your phone. So either one of these gimbals, this is the Osmo gimbal, or you can use the iOgrapher, which will also stabilize your camera. I've got a couple of other hacks, but we'll talk about that another time. But those are the basic things that you can do to level up your marketing online. So again, today we're talking about how to build a customer-centric experience for your brand, and we're talking about marketing strategies that require clear, actionable, and achievable metrics to reach your goals. So with that, I'm going to invite my amazing co-host onto the screen to join me. Nancy, a very big welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bridgetti. It's a pleasure to be here as always. And I have to say, I think you should trademark fantabulous. That's an amazing, amazing expression.
I started using it a couple of years ago, and I don't know, I like the word.
It has so much energy and happiness to it. I love it. Fantabulous. Well done.
Absolutely. Well, today, our conversation's kind of right up your alley.
Yes.
Because yeah, I thought when I was looking at our topic for today, and just realizing that is exactly what you're doing for the University of California, Santa Barbara. So you come with real world experience on this topic.
Yes, thank you. Well, it's really exciting because I do get to work with people in all kinds of organizations, big, small, entrepreneurial corporations with really trying to focus on the customer experience, which is truly the execution of your brand. And, it's interesting. And we talk a little bit about this, the kind of the roles that customer experience plays. And you have, marketing, the true sense of marketing, which is bringing people the awareness of your product and service. But then that's kind of the introduction into the operational customer experience that your clients and customers actually have with your brand and your organization. And so making sure that they're synced up and they're really complementing one another and working together is what we're going to talk about today. So we have lots of facts and tips and tricks and hacks to help you with your organization.
Oh, absolutely. And I just can't wait for us to actually dive into this. So
Absolutely.
shall we pull up our slides?
Absolutely. Let's do it. So,
So we're kicking
yeah.
off with the customer experience.
Right. So what I wanted to do is just kind of give a little bit of a definition. Again, like I said, it's really that intersection of an operations and a marketing function. But I think, when you start to anticipate, when you get to know your customers and your clients or your target market, you really, you want to provide them your product or service, but you want to do it in a way that's really unexpected. So what you're trying to do is to get them to engage on an emotional level, and that really creates a sticky brand alliance or company alliance for your clients. And so Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, has this really neat quote that says, if you're competitor focused, which means you're always looking over your shoulder, or looking at what your customer or your competitors are doing, you have to wait until they do something that's new and exciting. But if you're looking at your customers and paying attention to them, you always allows you to be more pioneering, because you're creating products and services to delight your clients. So focus on your own, and you'll be the innovative leader if you're paying good attention to their needs and anticipating how your product or service can even be, more than just what they need, but what they're delighted to have.
Absolutely. And of course, talking about Jeff Bezos, we are live on Amazon Live, and
Was
he
that an
definitely
accident or not? I don't know.
he definitely knows what he's talking about.
Absolutely, he does. He does indeed. And when you think about Amazon, he's really walking the talk, constantly innovating, delivering new services and products and ways for us to communicate that we perhaps may not have thought of or thought was possible. And now look at how that's impacted the way we buy and interact, and almost every aspect of our life is impacted by Amazon. So we're very fortunate to be a part of the network and to be able to communicate with Amazon Live. So thank you, Jeff.
Absolutely. I just wanted to say, talk about innovation. A couple of years ago when we started live streaming, it was so different to where we are now. Now we can do everything at a push of a button, literally. This is one of my newest toys, the Stream Deck, which I absolutely love, which means that you can change scenes and you can flip through things just by pushing a button. I mean, who would have thought that that's the direction we would have gone in?
Yep.
And again, this little Stream Deck is also available on Amazon Live, by the way. But it just shows, how innovative people have become. We have become in moving
Indeed.
forward with technology that allows us to do these smart things.
Absolutely. Well, and you know what, Bridgetti, you bring up that's an excellent example of our viewers that are watching. There's a lot that you're doing behind the scenes to produce this show and to make it so informative and hopefully entertaining as well. But those little tips and tricks that you have, I just totally want to be able to share with our audience. Like, if you're interested in doing this type of communication, contact Bridgetti. She was there in the beginning and she continues to innovate. And that's one of the things we really need to think about with customer experience, is not to get complacent in what has been successful for your business, but to continue to anticipate what the experience for your client is going to be. What's the best experience, and how can you think to enhance that, to go above and beyond to be able to do that, and putting that customer at the center. So thank you, Bridgetti, for always looking at technology and adopting it and then sharing it with all of us as we can enhance our marketing and our communication.
Thanks, Nancy.
Absolutely. So one of the things I wanted to, well, one of the things, the core kind of building this customer centric organization is I see it in three kind of phases. And this really is important to understand. It's not just for large organizations. Even if you're an entrepreneur, it's kind of a mindset that you need to kind of go through to be really building a solid customer centric organization. So the first phase would be the inspiration and the purpose, and understanding really what it is about your customers and your clients that's going to bring forward a vision, like a connection that goes, I want to delight my customers and my clients, and I want my brand to mean this, or whatever you're looking to enhance. So being integrating your vision with what with what you're seeing happens with your clients and customers is going to be super important. And then being able to link that value for you and for your client together, because when you're thinking in an innovative place, in a customer centric way, you're going to start to deliver that delightful experience that's going to translate into value and it for you and for your clients. So you'll start to see more and more return on investment, as we will talk about later on. And then I think that the third phase is really to nurture that transformation of your business. So it means continually looking at the processes that you've implemented and make sure that they're delivering the results that your organization, whether it's you or whether it's several other people, that they really truly know that your focus and emphasis is on building this customer centric organization. And then you want to, make sure that you're measuring always and making sure that what you're doing is creating the result that you want, that you're looking for in your business.
Nancy, I think that is such an important aspect, and I like the word that you use, nurture the
Mm.
transformation. In other words, you can't just make the transformation and then just leave it be. And I also like that you said, you've got to have checks and balances, benchmarks, to see if you are achieving them and how you need to adjust them. Because if you are customer focused or customer centric, you will check back constantly to see, is this still working? Do I need to make adjustments? But in order to make those, you do need to have benchmarks against which to see if you are achieving your goals or not. So, really love those tips. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to really think of this as a cultural change, a commitment to putting the customer at the center of your organization is going to be something that's reinforced through almost everything that you do, so that it's enhancing your brand, which is something you think about, you lay at the foundation of your business. But how does that brand deliver on that customer centricity, which is super important. So just diving deeper into the phase one of your customer centric vision, it's really about aligning your vision with your brand promise, which you talked a little bit about. So when you're thinking about why you're doing what you're doing, and that's something that comes from within you and your business or the organization that you're working for and why you're working there, and then connecting that into what does that deliver from a customer experience perspective. So how can that make their lives better might be a really easy way to say that, or a simplistic way to say that. And you want to make sure that you're creating that emotional connection. It's really powerful when you're tapping into emotions. It's not just oh, I need to do this or I need to do that, but something that you enjoy doing or that delights you or that surprises you in some way, that you're delivering for your company. And then always remember to, when your marketing is setting the expectations, like I had mentioned, and then operationally you're delivering on that, and to make sure that that is a process that's constantly in sync with one another. So what is your, going back and saying, what is the brand that our brand promising? in our marketing efforts, and is that being, brought forward from the feedback that we receive from our customers and our clients? And then at every touch point, whether it be having a discussion like this, or executing on a package, or a product delivery, or a consulting, is that every single touch point, are you getting delivering that experience for your customer and your clients is going to be really critical, because oftentimes we have blind spots where we overlook, like, oh, that's just our billing is just, this is what we have to do. When you can re-examine each one of those touch points to go, well, is this really the best way for my customer or my client to experience my brand? So be really thoughtful. And we're going to go through some customer journey examples later on, so to get you in that mindset.
Mm, I love those points as well, because again, it's something that you've got to revisit from time to time and
Yes.
see where you've got to make adjustments. So I really like that you're emphasizing that.
Well, and just to go a little bit further, I thought I would share some examples of kind of the difference between customer experience and marketing. So I've listed out a couple of, pretty general touch points, like the website. So from an experience perspective, the website is really used for collecting feedback, exploring usability, making sure that your clients are able to get what they need when they need it and have a very seamless experience. And then also make sure that you're unifying, if that's your main point of interaction with your clients, that experience is unified. And for marketing, it's really about building the site and the functionality of the site, identifying the products and messaging that will improve the performance. So it's a constant feedback loop. You also have that with social media, where from an experience perspective, they're watching the feedback and analyzing the feedback, and also any kind of stories or any kind of reactions that customers are having. And from a marketing perspective, you're building followers and encouraging new people to make recommendations about your product, and also to create brand awareness through social media. So working together, that's again going to really emphasize that enhanced customer experience. For the customer and your employees, feedback is going to be super important as well, because that's going to show you where you have points of improvement, where there's maybe something that's not as delightful as you'd like to have. For example, like the billing example that I gave. Perhaps if you're getting feedback that something's not working, then you have the opportunity to get that either from your customers or even from internally. You can capture that information, and that's an experience activity. And one of the things I think is so important with marketing is training your employees on the value of your brand and why you're doing what you're doing, so that they can deliver on those brand values and deliver that customer experience that you want your customers and clients to have. And if you're training your employees, also letting them know what they're doing, how that's impacting that overall vision, and getting them buy-in so that they feel ownership in creating this experience. Next is a point of transaction. So we talked about billing, or maybe it's a shopping, or maybe it's a online interaction or an in-person interaction. From the experience perspective, it's really making sure that the experience is done with ease, and that the customer service staff is trained in how to execute that, which is a little different than the marketing aspect of training them on the brand values and how their role delivers on that, but actually training them in the optimal experience within their particular job function, or your job function, wearing that hat. And then marketing will communicate how easy it is to use that. So being able to highlight those benefits and that training and that ownership. And then finally, advertising, really from an experience perspective, it's really about analyzing customer comments again, and being able to go, okay, this is what they said. How can we implement this in a better way, make this experience more seamless? And then marketing is meant to portray and highlight those improvements, and to demonstrate the findings and then promote that overall. So just a little bit of kind of a contrast between the two. I really want to emphasize as a marketing person the importance of that very close connection to customer experience. The experience is the brand. The customer experience is the brand itself come to life, and will travel with you if you do it right.
Mm. Again, such valuable points. And when you were talking about the customer experience on your website, I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
of Todd Hartley of Wirebuzz that I had as a guest a while ago. And he
Mm-hmm.
was talking about the importance of measuring the response that your customers have on your website.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was saying, if somebody spends 2 seconds on your website, that's not a very hot lead.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
But if somebody spends 5 minutes looking at all the stuff on your websites, now that may be a hot lead. But you're not
That's
going
a
to know that unless you are gathering data on people who are visiting your website.
Absolutely. And that those analytics are not difficult or expensive. Now you can get deep insights on your website presence, but typically you can use a Google Analytics, which is part of, is part of your website, to track those exact things, the time of interaction on each page, when they leave your page. And you're right, those are telltale signs. Where are people engaging? When has or where has the information got them to stay there for longer than 5 seconds? If you get them there for, a couple minutes, you're doing really well. But then you're setting up, they're on your website, and you're setting up an experience. So then you need to, make sure that gets reinforced with whatever type of delivery and execution that you have. So thank you for bringing that up. It's very important. And you sometimes forget the opportunities that you have to measure that are very, very affordable and accessible for your business. So going a little bit more into phase 2, where we start to understand our clients and our target markets, we think sometimes we know them and almost make the assumption that, this is what they want, or this is how they think. A really good exercise that I found is creating a persona, and oftentimes it's more than one, but we're going to go through an example of a persona that I just made up for a company that I made up. But here are the elements that I think are really important. And when you lay it out, much like anything, when you lay it out, put it on paper and look at it, all of a sudden it stimulates ideas for enhancements as well. So it's really important when you're doing this to grab an image of a person that looks like your persona. Create a name for that. It can be kind of a funny name. I think I have Up and Coming Amy is our example. But when you name something, it becomes much more real. And all of a sudden you start thinking about, well, what would Amy think or do in this situation? So think about the goals that your persona would have with regard in relationship to your product or service. Also highlight the demographics. What do they do? Where do they live? Where do they work? That type of thing. And we'll show you this example on the next page. And also psychographics. This is where I think is the sweet spot in understanding people's personality. And you can make it up, but it's like gathering what you've known in your experience with your clients, or who you anticipate your clients to be. What would their personality be? What type of client would you attract? What would be their interests and hobbies? So you start to get a better understanding of where you can communicate with them mostly, if there's some type of a crossover with their hobbies. What's their lifestyle like? What's their media use like? Kind of what type of activities do they do in their free time, or where do they work? Next, really understand what their pain points are with regard to why they would want to engage with your product or service. Like, what are you going to do to make their life better? And then hopefully delight them in that particular interaction. And then how are they currently trying to solve that problem? How are they currently going at it? So Bridgetti brought up the advancements with the live stream and podcast, live streaming, and being able to advance live. Well, if I didn't know, I didn't know that was a pain point. And maybe Jeff Bezos didn't know until it became apparent, and then was able to say, I'm going to anticipate an easier way to provide excellent graphics and a seamless interaction for my live streamers. And then understanding, this is where a little bit of your competition, understanding what companies are they using right now to solve those problems, and how are they doing it currently, using what tools, and then how are we going to address those issues in a better and unique way? What's our unique value proposition and way to improve that experience for our client? So that's just a kind of an overview of the elements that I use in developing personas for myself and for my clients. So let's take a look at an example of up and coming Amy. I know.
I was waiting for this section because I thought it's amazing.
Well, it's kind of fun because you get to sort of, make up and kind of play, if you will, when you start to think about, okay, who is this person that I want to delight? And going through, I've selected an image of my up and coming Amy, and she's like very sweet, a millennial. She in this particular instance, the organization that was made up was a food delivery service. Her situation is that she's looking for a way to eat more fresh, healthy food, but she doesn't have time to do it, which is a pretty common need for people, especially when you're up and coming, you're building your career, you're very focused in that area, but you still want to be healthy. So her demographics are, she's 33, she's female, she lives in Santa Monica, California. She has a BS in, she wants to go back, a Bachelor of Science degree. She wants to get her master's. She is single. She is a product manager for a mid-sized finance company. Her income is $75,000 US. Her ethnic background is Asian and African American. Her personality is that she's a young millennial woman who likes to experience her city, hang out at the beach. And for those who don't know where Santa Monica is, it's right at it's a very cool place to live. I wish I lived there. And she also likes to spend time with her friends, and she has a dog, so she likes to be with her puppy as well. Her hobbies, she enjoys being active and staying healthy. She stays on top of trends, pop culture, and health news. She does a lot after work and weekend activities, and she has little time for errands. So shopping is probably not, grocery shopping is probably not at the top of her list. Again, kind of talking about her pain points, she lacks time or desire to plan meals for the week. And she's not sure where to start or how. She's like, I know there's a lot of information about nutrition and how to maximize my health through food, but I don't know where to start. And I really don't have the time to really dive into that, nor does she have the interest in doing that. She'd rather be at the beach with her friends and her dog. Social media, she is a heavy Instagram user. She looks at Twitter and Facebook. She understands a little bit about social media and social media marketing and how that works and how she can interact with it. And she typically gets her information from friend referrals, online research, and of course, social media. She uses social media, like we said, but influencer recommendations. And it's interesting because I'm hoping that next show we can do a little bit more diving into influencer and product placement marketing and how you can leverage that in your business. But in this particular case, she is looking for that type of information and validation. Of course, she loves her friends' recommendation, and she gets out often through social media, through Facebook. and Instagram. And of course, when she's hanging out at the beach with her friends, she's going to bring up the topic of like, have you guys used a service like this? And then of course she does her Google searches. So when we think about this particular business that I made up, how can we help Amy? And so I put together this statement: as a fresh meal kit delivery service, we can provide Amy with fresh, healthy, prepared meals so that she doesn't have to spend her time on planning her meals. Every week, she can choose the meals. We can send the ingredients and recipes and schedule deliveries, or we can offer a prepared meal option and deliver it to her in that way. So honestly, this is all about kind of when you go through each one of these kind of categories, it's like, well, I used to be a big Barbie fan, so I would play with dolls and set up their scenarios. And this is kind of like doing it like, okay, my Barbie today is up and coming Amy. What does her life look like? The thing with this is to make sure that it is truly someone that you're targeting your marketing towards, or your business and your business products and services towards. So I know that was a lot. Bridgetti, do you have any questions or comments on up and coming Amy, or the process of deliver or creating a persona?
I thought this was very interesting because, you can't meet the clients, or you can't meet the needs of somebody that you haven't analyzed or not aware of.
Mhm. Right.
Um, so if you're trying to sell products, goods, or whether it's goods or services, you've got to know who the person is that you're trying to sell to, because only if you truly understand that person, how they think, how they act, what their needs are, can you, if you know what their pain points are, you can target your marketing process towards their pain points. But, you,
Absolutely.
but you've got to understand who you are selling to. I think sometimes we make the mistake of we're trying to sell to everybody, but
Yes.
not everybody's going to like what we sell, and they don't have to.
Exactly. And when you do that, you kind of water down the attributes of your brand that make you unique and super valuable to your client. And I would like to add that this is an example of a business to consumer target audience. But you could do this and highlight if you're a B2B, business to business organization, you can do the exact same thing, just putting the type of business that you're marketing to and what their pain points are, and how do they behave, how long have they been in business, all those types of things. You can translate that into a B2B persona as well. So it is, and it's hard for us to narrow the focus when you want to go broad, but it really doesn't do, it's a disservice to our organizations, because
Mm,
we're not, I mean, not everybody's going to want everything that you're offering. So being really thoughtful and strategic about who you're marketing to is going to delight that person. They're going to re-engage. They're going to share their experiences with their friends or other businesses. So it's important to narrow that down.
mm. I still think we need to rename our target audience as human to human, because
That's great.
whether it's
Yeah.
a consumer or a business, it really
Hmm.
doesn't matter, because behind the business is a human.
You're
It's
absolutely
still,
right.
it's still a person that's going to make that decision on behalf of the brand. So target something within that person that's going to make them give you a yes.
Yes, you are absolutely right, 1000%. And we're all, every business is run by human beings that have likes and desires and pain points and goals. So that's an excellent point, Bridgetti. Um, the next part of this phase two, so we know who our person is. Now let's put them in the situation of experiencing our brand. And you can do that with customer feedback. You can, get out your dolls and play a scenario. But really kind of taking it from point A to point B in any particular interaction. So this is kind of an overview. It's a general overview of an experience and touch points that a customer would have. The customer journey is what what it's called. And then I have also highlighted kind of how a company the responsibility that the company has to respond and react in each of these uh, touch points through the journey. So we start out with awareness. So someone's like, I'm looking for a particular product or service, and the company's responsibility is to be able to attract those people that are looking for that particular product or service. Next is, so someone's like, okay, I'm looking for this now. I'm thinking about these particular companies, and then that word nurture comes up again from the company to say, to kind of bring them forward. Maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's an advertisement, maybe it's a webinar, maybe it's a social media post, but that nurturing and bringing them more aware of what your product or service can deliver. Then, the customer kind of goes, okay, I've narrowed it down and I'm trying to decide between, these two organizations. And in that instance, it's the organization's opportunity to convert, to demonstrate. Once you know what the pain points are by your, persona audience, then you can start to say, this is how I hook them. And then they engage, and then they're like, okay, I want to really get to know your organization and continue to nurture that engagement and build on that. So maybe it's a social media post, and then it's a podcast, and then they've asked another customer of yours what they think of your business. And then they decide to buy, which we love that. But the journey doesn't end there. And that this is where it syncs up what the company does, and then what the customer does. Is once they buy the product, then they start to adopt it. They start using it. They get experiences with it. And all through that, there's opportunities to improve and enhance at whatever your product or service is. And if they have a really good experience and you continue to reinforce the benefits, then they adopt and they go through a process of like, this is what I'm going to use moving forward. And then they start to advocate for you, and they're, someone's like, oh, I have this problem. They be like, oh, this is what I use. You might want to try it, until you get to the ultimate uber consumer who's advocating for you, who wants to yell from the rooftops about how it's improved their life and their business. And that's the holy grail, right? When you achieve that, then you've got a customer for life. But understanding that whole process, and again, this is a high level. Every business, every offering is going to have a little bit of a nuanced interaction along these lines. But this is kind of a good way to start.
Goodness me, that customer journey is so, so important. And again, measuring that customer journey through every single phase,
Yes.
being aware of how that goes, and then seeing how you can leverage that. Because if you don't, they're going to go elsewhere.
Absolutely. And you know what? There's a lot of hungry businesses out there wanting to capture that ROI that you could be missing if you're not paying really good, close attention to bringing your customer to brand ambassadorship.
Absolutely. I'm very big on this whole customer experience thing, and one of the things that's highlighted that a lot for me is the way. And I know that you're going to wrap up towards the end talking about how things have changed over the pandemic, but for me personally, I've become aware of a lot about the customer experience
Mhm.
journey during the pandemic, because it had to there has been a shift, and there needed to be a shift to make
Absolutely.
things more customer centric,
Centric.
as opposed
Yeah.
to what worked for the brands before is now no longer working.
Hmm.
People want something that's different and that caters to the current situation, that keeps them safe during the pandemic, but they still want access to goods and services, but in a manner that keeps them safe. So that's very, very important for the customer.
Absolutely. And any business that has done this exercise and hasn't revisited it since the pandemic really needs to, because it's truly an opportunity for you to enhance your business and engage more closely. And I think when we go through some of the examples, excuse me, then you can see how this evolution, this pandemic, this need to kind of be more isolated has created the opportunity for business models and solutions. So excuse me. So I did do a couple of examples of.
Did you not have your Starbucks coffee today?
I did. I'm so sad the holiday thing is gone, but I'm going to take my Starbucks water and have a sip.
I couldn't resist when I saw you using the Starbucks example. I thought, well, I wonder if she's had a Starbucks coffee today.
I have. So in this particular example, I usually drive through. This is an example where someone would actually come into the restaurant. And so going through each of the touch points along the way. So this is a little bit of a more focused experience map where someone comes in, and then what you have is kind of what is the baseline experience, what is something that could happen that's below that experience and less than optimal, and something that can delight within those experiences. So in this case, you have the anticipation of going. So you're in your office, you're in your car, I'm going to go to Starbucks. I really need a coffee. Then you go to the store, you walk in, and in that, well, as you go through the baseline, you have like, maybe there's some type of worry. Like I'm just not, I need something to pick me up or whatever. I want that feeling of that Starbucks coffee. And then you enter and you walk in, and perhaps there's it's cold, or there isn't, that it's too loud. Sometimes they play music. You might have that would be below the baseline of the experience, but you walk in, you get to smell the coffee and that aroma and that instant, like they like to say, the third place, your home, your work, and Starbucks is your third place. And the ambiance, maybe the music isn't too loud and it's perfect, and it kind of gets you in that groove, and you're vibrationally ready for that cup of coffee. And then you have points of engagement. So you have the line, you have your ordering, you're paying. Maybe you want to sit down and do some work there. And of course you're drinking your coffee. So there's all these kinds of opportunities for you to have really great experience, a baseline experience, or maybe a not so great experience. And in those not so great experiences is where a company, an organization has the opportunity to go, how can we make that we move that up from baseline or below baseline into delighting. So this is just kind of an example to, you exit and then you reflect on your cup of coffee. Now this is a very small picture of the total, experience of engaging with Starbucks, but it is a real way that people would experience this particular brand. We do have another example that's a little bit of a different experience that I wanted to bring forward, which is actually someone going through a healthcare experience. And I apologize because it looks like the the example is kind of covering up the actual healthcare system that this came from, which is Meridian Health. So in this case, they do highlight a little bit of that persona in this execution. And so it's giving you an idea of who this is. Newbie Natalie. We marketers like to come up with some creative ways to describe our customers and clients. But this is where she's going in and she's having an MRI. And so there's a lot of, again, you have your baseline, and then you have your delightful experiences and your below the line experiences going through that pathway that she goes from getting the doctor saying, you need this particular thing, that anxiety, that angst that she goes through. She actually, decides to have the procedure done, picks a place to go to. Even, how is the parking lot when she goes? Because she has a high level of anxiety. So what can you do as a business? They're like, okay, I know she's going to be anxious because she doesn't know what's going to happen. How is a parking lot going to help enhance it? And it's surprising. These are the things where, unless you kind of take the time to walk through that experience to go, oh my God, what we could do is have some sort of a map that shows exactly where she needs to go or where she needs to park to have optimal access to the place that she needs to enter the building. So those types of things, and really thinking about it, it's amazing how much that little bit of investment can improve the experience and delight someone who's going through something. When someone's going through something that is anxious, that could be something negative, the business has such an opportunity to minimize that anxiousness and delight. So again, it's kind of, you can go get a cup of coffee or, find out if something's, seriously medically wrong with you, or two different experiences. But you can see, and why I brought it forward is there's a lot of ways that there's points of goodness and badness within the experience where if you can improve that, you're ahead of your customers. And now you're thinking about your clients versus your
Yeah.
customers.
I just wanted to jump in there because I think that this is such an important aspect. Something that I personally am very passionate about
Mhm.
is how accessible a building is
Yeah.
to the differently abled community. And
Mhm.
I still, feel that there's a lot that companies that can do to make things easy for people with accessibility issues,
Mhm.
and because I find very often people do what they think the community needs, as opposed to engaging with the community and finding out what it is that can make the experience of visiting their premises a little bit easier for people who are differently abled,
Yes.
because it's very, very different. I often hear people in the community talk about that. A little thing, for example, like if somebody has a wheelchair, it's not easy to push a wheelchair on a carpet. And sometimes that ridge
Good.
on the carpet, that
Mhm.
end that they have, that also makes it difficult for somebody to push a wheelchair over there. So it's tiny little things like that that if you pay attention to can just change the customer experience so much, and you'll have a customer for life.
And it's not a big investment. That's an excellent point, and thank you for bringing that, your experience and observation forward. In this particular example, the people behind, when she checked in, the people behind the counter were gossiping. And in that instance, she was like, "Oh my God, is this a professional organization? I'm going to go, have something very serious, like it could determine the fate of my health. And these people are gossiping about something." So it becomes, that's such a simple fix. Like when you're in the presence of customers and clients, you behave in a way that, and again, going back to training, if you can train and say, this is can you imagine if you went through this experience and had this particular outcome because you were just talking about, I don't know, your neighbor's, affair with the garbage man. I don't know. But, keeping that stuff in the place where it's appropriate to be kept is important. And like the carpet, keeping understanding it seems like such a minor thing, but it can be such a delight and an emotional connection of like, they really know what they're doing. They really understand my situation and are looking out for the best for me. So this customer journey, again, it's strategic, and you need to take the time and the discipline to really gather your information, plot it out. But it's such a great, it can be such a great, easy return on your investment of time, perhaps resources, and training, to create that brand advocate customer or client.
Mm, absolutely. And it's the little things, so if you can just take the time to check those nuances that can make a huge difference to your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the last phase that I highlight is really understanding and calculating your return on investment. And that investment could be, we like to think of, making money and dollar investment, but also, that it's how do you measure a brand advocate, someone who's literally marketing for you. So here's some examples that I have seen the way typically it's an end-to-end customer experience impact, which would be, what is your revenue, what is your profitability, and then kind of what is, your renewal rate or your return rate for clients, obviously referrals, and then, repeat orders or repeat experiences. That's kind of like pretty basic raw way to measure, has this had an impact and how has it made an impact, which you can present to yourself, present to your senior leadership. The senior leadership really does have to buy off on taking a real focused buy into customer experience. But when you can bring this back to them and say, look at what this buy-off has provided for our business or services, for our clients and for our business. The next one would be behavioral or operational customer experience impact. So if you start to see, we're not getting as much complaint data about the accessibility of our waiting room because we took the carpet out, or we used a different material in the waiting room. If you're delivering products or services, when you start to anticipate or you start to examine where your clients are receiving, the delivery results, are they on time? Was it delivered as expected? Was it delivered beyond expectations? Perhaps, the packaging, if you think of Apple and their packaging, it's almost, there's so many instances that I hear of people saying, I never threw out my iPhone box because it's so pretty and it was so beautifully packaged. So again, a delight that's kind of a little unexpected, but once you hear people pay attention to that, they're like, I have 4 iPhone boxes in my closet because I just can't get rid of them. You could also say that for Tiffany too, that blue box, the jewelry thing. But anyway, I digress. So invoices, are they paying on time? Are you correctly invoicing people and billing people for the products and services? Because, if you do that, that's a disconnect, and people would, when they start to trust that, that how they've engaged and are properly being billed, it's a great way to measure that. If their product cancellations are being reduced, and of course, if you're able to cross-sell or upsell other products and services because you've established a trust and an understanding of, people like, they get me, so I'm going to buy, more products and services from them. And then also, taking a look at your customer journey and what that impact is across the journey points and helping you to build and incorporate better experiences for your customers and clients are great ways to evaluate this experience, customer experience, and to make it profitable and beneficial for your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. All these touch points that you've gone through is something we definitely want to be paying attention to.
Yes. And I'm bringing up this slide from our last time when we're talking about setting goals. Just as a reminder, here are some of the top categories that we want to achieve when we're setting our goals and how customer experience can play into that. So we talked about profitability, market share. If you're delighting the customer, they're going to stay with you. You're going to get more market share. Brand awareness, they're going to associate your brand with a delightful experience. Conversion, you're going to, all of these kind of connect. High satisfaction rates, it's kind of a no-brainer. And then again, loyalty, that brand advocate result. So I just wanted to revisit what we talked about setting goals for and how customer experience can play into and influence each one of these categories. And then just to kind of, we talked a little bit about some of these organizations, but the key thing is that these organizations have made a commitment to being customer centric, to doing these types of exercises that we highlighted. So I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with Zappos. It started out as a online shoe sales or department store online. But they will literally, their customer, I've been to the headquarters. It's actually, I believe, in Las Vegas. I truly went there to go visit the organization, and then maybe I went and played a little blackjack, but but anyway, so their customer service agents are trained to stay on the phone with their clients, regardless of whether they have a question about a product or service that is offered through Zappos. If they want advice about cooking sourdough bread, they will stay on. They will try to find, they're like above and beyond trying to create that customer experience. Where it says powered by service, they mean it. They train.
Wow.
And it's really interesting to go to the organization and see how it's set up. It's completely a creative environment, an empowered environment. The customer service agents are treated just like the CEO. Everybody has open offices, but they are empowered to provide a return without questions asked. They're empowered to offer other services, and obviously, if you're looking for sourdough bread, I don't know if a Zappos customer service agent is going to be the best expert, but they might point you in the right direction. So it's really impressive to see that organization work.
I wanted to just mention there that that is such an important aspect that is often overlooked by organizations, and that is empowering your customer experience agents to really be authentic. For me, the biggest turnoff in terms of a customer experience is when you encounter agents that are reading from a script and cannot deviate from the script. It is such a big turnoff for me.
Yes.
When I'm dealing with an agent, a customer experience agent who's not empowered. It is the quickest way to lose me as a customer.
And it's a really easy remedy. I mean, some of these things are so just re-examining how you're approaching your business, and why would you not empower the person who is touching your customer, that like is with your customer? That is the experience. They are defining your brand. Empower them to do what the customer needs. And also, even if they can't do something, to say, you know what, I can't do this, but I'm going to find a solution and I'm going to get back to you, and then follow through. So it can be very simple, but it does take a little bit of, untying some of those knots of how people think things should be done, and say, let's rethink this, because we want to put the customer at the center of this, and how would they want to have this experience. So yeah, Zappos does all of these organizations. We talked about Amazon, and I think probably most of the world has experienced Amazon in some way, shape, or form. Certainly anyone that's listening to this live stream is experiencing an element of Amazon. Trader Joe's is a grocery store in the United States, but it really specializes in exotic and ethnic, untypical products, food products, alcohol, coffee. Everything it's and you walk in there, and it's just a different feeling. Like you almost walk into another country. The people wear Hawaiian shirts. The employees are super empowered to help you, and they'll make recommendations. You can go in there and say, I want to do this type of thing. What do you got, or have this type of meal. What do you recommend? They're happy. People love working there. It's really a truly fun experience. And my daughter's at college, and they have a Trader Joe's just down the street. And I'm like, wow, they are so diehard to go to Trader Joe's versus, going to the regular grocery store. I'm like, if that's one of the things that you take as a plus, and you recognize that, then you're going to you have a budget. So make it work. Go to Trader Joe's if you want to, but make it work. But it's worth it for them to go and shop there because of the experience. Target, also, the stores are laid out in the same way. People wear their red shirts. It's very much that kind of element of design and well-executed products and services at a reasonable price and cost, and people are there and empowered to help and to deliver on that. Apple, we talked
I must
about.
tell you, That's one of my big pain points, is going into a supermarket, because oftentimes, it's not people do grocery shopping because we have to. Nobody
Right.
really sort of like says, "I'm dying to go grocery shopping." I'm a person. Nobody does that. We go because we have to. And
Right.
there's nothing as disturbing as going into the shop, wanting something, and they've changed the aisles. It is
Mhm.
super, super frustrating, especially if you're running in there and you just want one or two items very quickly. You know which aisle it's in, and you get there, it's like, where's it gone? And there's
I
nobody to help you. It's like that is like the ultimate frustrating thing. And I wish people would implement a thing where, if they do change, that they put up a notice then saying, this is now in aisle 7.
Yep.
So you don't have to go walk around going to find somebody, say, hey, that used to be in aisle number 6. Where's it gone? But
It
if there's a notice there saying we've now moved this shelf to aisle number whatever, it's it's not going to freak me out as much as me trying to find somebody to tell me where they've moved it to.
Absolutely, and actually at Target, if you go online and look for something and you wanna go in the store and pick it up, they tell you they label, B6, B7, the different aisles that they have. And you can go I've done it many times. I've looked on, "Oh, okay, they do have whatever I'm looking for." And, "Oh, this is where I can get it." So I can purchase it and drive up and they can put it in my trunk. I can go in the store and go pick it up and know exactly where it is. I can also have them, pull it aside and I can go to customer service and pick it up there. But I really am impressed, and it's a great example of, like, I've noticed, I'm like, "Oh, I know, okay, I don't have to fart around," pardon the expression. And some organizations and stores will say, no, we want people to shop and have an experience, so we'll put something in the back of the store so they have to go through. But if you're thinking about who your target customer is, and I am a loyal Target shopper, but sometimes I just need to go and get what I need to get and get out, like you said. So they enable that for me so that I will, maybe the next time I have some more time, I can go and look at the clothes or the jewelry or the shoes, or and not just get ahead of lettuce. But yeah, so all of these, we talked about Apple, Disney. If you've been, to any, if you had watched a Disney movie, gone to a Disney park, their theme is the happiest place on earth, and so at every point of interaction, they're trying to do that and to delight their guests. And even when you go to a park, the employees there are called cast members. So it's like they're actually put in a place of like being part of the show. So it's very interesting, and it obviously reaps tons and tons of rewards for the Disney brand. So wanted to give you guys some examples. If you have experiences with these organizations, there are many other organizations that follow this philosophy, but here's just some ideas when you think about these brands and how you've interacted with them and how maybe that experience is like, oh yeah, that is really a different experience and a really good one that I hadn't expected. And then we talked about the pandemic and the implications of this huge worldwide pandemic on our experiences with the products and services that we interact with. And here's just some of the innovations when you see something, something that could be seen as a tragedy and really has shaken up our world. Our opportunity as
For
marketers
the
and
good, I
business.
may add, I think.
Well, right. But our opportunity as business people is to leverage the change. It's like a crack, like, oh, this cracked something open for an opportunity. How do we leverage on that? So some of examples are pop-up shops. We're going to where we know our target markets are going to interact more. It doesn't have to be a huge investment in real estate. People can go and they can have an experience where they're at. Curbside pickups, I mentioned that with Target, where if you don't want to go into an organization, almost every uh, place that I've seen, you can go, you can order, you can just go. I was at a store called Kohl's, and you pull up, you park your car, pop your trunk, you show, your barcode that it's you, and they put it in your trunk, and then, and you're just showing, they don't even have to scan it or anything. It's just, it is your name and your vehicle, what you put in, what your vehicle looks like, and then they put it in your trunk and you drive off. No interaction if you don't want interaction. Obviously, online shopping, but it's not just Amazon. There's actually an organization called Carvana, which they do vending machines for cars, where you go online, you pick out your car, and they have like these inventories that are buildings. They're, instead of horizontal on the lot, they're stacked. They can pull out the car that you desire and take it to your home. So you can literally buy a car online, and they have amazing, warranties, and we call them lemon laws in California, where if you're not satisfied, you can return the car within a certain amount of time. So adapting to the situation where people don't like, having to go to a car dealership and do the, back and forth and all of that. So this streamlines that pain point. Cash free.
I was blown away the other day when I realized you can now buy a car on Amazon. Imagine that. You can buy a car
Wow.
on Amazon.
I'm like, wow, but I'm also, because of Amazon and the innovations, I'm not surprised. I do like, well, of course they would innovate to create that customer, to understand that pain point and to innovate and bake that in. They've just reimagined business, obviously, but the way to implement customer experience in a way that, just delights us, continues to surprise and delight us. So
I
yeah.
know. I was blown away because, and they've built, the experience of looking at the car and how the car performs and how everything looks in the car. Oh my goodness, they have just found such an innovative way for you to experience what the inside of the car is like online. It's crazy the lengths to which they have gone. It's like when you're buying a house,
Mm-hmm.
you get this, sort of interactive experience where you can poke around the house,
Mm-hmm.
um, to see what it's like without physically being there, and every nook and cranny, and you can zoom in. And they've created a very similar experience for buying a car, which
Mm-hmm.
I thought was
Can
amazing.
can you imagine our parents like saying, "Oh, you can get on your computer and buy a car," and they'd be like, "Are you crazy?" But that's the type of thing where it's like you almost start to shift and bend people's perceptions of what you can and cannot do, because in maybe our parents' perception would be like, well, first of all, they probably wouldn't even have thought of buying things, grocery shopping, anything online. But to start to think about something, such a huge ticket item as a car or a house, and going through online and having an experience that allows you to go, okay, I trust this brand, I trust this company, and I don't, except for maybe touching something, it's like I feel very comfortable with making this transaction. And also knowing, well, if for some reason, if it doesn't pay off the way I wanted it to, that I have a way to take care of that. But that's all part of examining the customer experience, knowing their pain points. Where are they at a low, below that baseline? How do we delight them and move them up? And every organization has that opportunity. And it's I obviously am very passionate about this particular topic, but it is a really smart and easy, and for the most part, low cost way to just make your customer and clients delighted. And you don't even have to do a lot of the thinking. Just ask them, follow them, know who they are, and then put yourselves in their shoes. It's a little empathy exercise, if you will. So
Yeah.
here's a couple other examples. Ghost kitchens, which I just love, because so many people weren't going to restaurants, and so they had all these kitchens that were vacant, and so you integrate restaurants that need the space. They can rent the space in those kitchens, and then incorporate the delivery apps to deliver the food out, where they don't have to make a huge investment in a whole restaurant kitchen. the appliances, everything is there. It's smart for the economy. It's smart for the environment. It's smart for business. It's just, these are the kinds of things where you start to be able to get out of your own way and think outside the box, that you can delight your bottom line. So that, and then virtual visits, meetings, appointments, this particular interaction, being able to talk to all of you guys all over the world, and be able to share information and dialogue and talk with Bridgetti. It's all because, it's been enhanced given the situation with the pandemic, which has enhanced the way we do business and added a dimension to our customer experience. So that was, I know we covered a lot, and hopefully you guys have gotten some really, you've been inspired to perhaps take a look at your organizations, big or small, and think about how you may be able to create an enhanced experience. I think you're muted.
Nancy,
There.
we've covered so much stuff, so thank you very, very much. Customer experience is something that any organization, every organization, and I think, whether you are a big business or you are a brand, it really doesn't matter. This is
Right.
something that affects everyone across the board. So I think it's good advice for an entrepreneur and a brand and a big business. And just a
Absolutely.
shout out to Lillian, who's saying hello to us in the comments. So a huge shout
Hi,
out
Lily.
to Lillian. Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's difficult to believe that, another 12 months have passed by. But new opportunities to do things differently, to pivot and to change. And Lillian says, thank you for sharing, Nancy.
Absolutely. My pleasure. My pleasure.
So yes, what are we doing? Have we decided what we're going to be covering next time? I can't remember if we discussed what we will be covering in the next show.
Yeah, what I would like to do is talk about some of the endorsements, the influencers, and how you can leverage those, product placement. There's a lot of exciting stuff. I know in the States we're looking at, the Super Bowl, which is a very high ticket, advertising, opportunity, which most of us can't afford. But borrowing from some of that work, and being able to leverage it within our own businesses through the product placements, through endorsements. It's really fun and exciting, and it will probably shock you at some of the things, some of the ways that products get integrated into what we expect to see, and then how it kind of subliminally influences us, or maybe not so subliminally, influence us to purchase or try something new. So I'm excited for that one in 2 weeks' time.
Well, there we have it. So again, thank you very much. And a huge big shout out to Lillian again. Lillian, you are amazing.
Thank you,
Uh,
Lily.
and Lillian says that must be expensive.
Oh,
So,
the Super Bowl ones. Yes, they're
so
millions of dollars for, a 30 or 60-second spot. You have to be, I think it's that those types of placements are more about, maybe, dare I say, the egos of the organizations, because I don't know how much of a return on their investment they're getting, other than brand build. Those commercials do get played over and over again, after that game has been played. But we can all leverage the learnings from why they chose, how they do it, how they are, whether it's through humor, through a celebrity endorsement, through even just during the game product placement, where you see people with cups or the Gatorade being dumped on the coaches, all that types of thing. But we'll expand more, in next time that we meet. It's exciting and fun.
Absolutely. We look forward to diving into that. And with that, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you in 2 weeks on the next episode of Marketing, Logo, and Positioning with Beyond the Logo. Myself, Bridgetti, and Nancy Lockhart. Take care, everyone.